All right, guys. So time for part two of the anti versus pro-feminist debate, aka this interview session where you have a bunch of women complaining about how oppressed and victimized they are. They're going to debate the gender pay gap. So I want to react to this because I find certain segments of this debate to be particularly fascinating that I would talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it.
I think feminism is attempting to say, okay, the first thing we agree on is that there are barriers and friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a black woman and being a black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further. You have more barriers, you have more friction, you are less able to get what you want. You're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, that's life. That's what I mean by equity, and that we're able to, without friction, all get the same needs met.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody is going to have friction, or everybody is going to have barriers in their life that is going to stop them from, or be in the way, not necessarily stop, but be in the way of them achieving whatever they want to achieve in life. I mean, if you are born in a place that has less economic resources, regardless of whether or not you're black, white, whatever. And there are a lot of white people that are born in these situations, right? Where they're not born in a two-parent household. They're born to, single mothers that are, making minimum wage or whatever, or they're born in crime-infested neighborhoods. White people go through the same things, right? Men go through the same things. They're going to be barriers, right? And this is why I don't like this conversation where people try to say, well, because of my identity, there are more barriers for me than other people. And it's like, well, there are more factors outside of just your identity that could be a barrier in life. And that doesn't mean that you should complain about it or get special rights and privileges just based off your identity. That it just means that you have to recognize those barriers and you need to overcome it like everybody else, regardless of your sex, your gender, your sexuality, whatever. Everybody has some barriers in life that is going to be in the way. There's always going to be friction for everybody, no matter who you are.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. See, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of benefits.
I agree with that. I agree with that, especially when it comes to the amount of ways that women can make money. They can monetize their bodies, right? They don't need actual real talent, right, to make money. Okay, I mean, like, bro, I mean, there's women who do things like, for example, you can be a door girl, okay, and you might get paid $500 a night just for standing at a door in tips, because men think that you're beautiful, so they're like, okay, well, we're gonna tip you, we're gonna give you some money, and all you do is just stand there, right, and just be nice. Again, it's there are certain like jobs and stuff like that, certain opportunities that women get that men don't get. Again, I'm not complaining about it. I don't really care that much because I believe in gender roles. Okay. But also on top of that, the expectation for women in regards to men is just not the same. Nobody is going to look down on a woman that's working, a minimum wage job. But if you're a man and you working a minimum wage job, somebody's like, yo, what are you doing? Right? You need to be leveling up. There's not much expectation for the woman to continue to level up or to do as much as a man, because again, the expectations that will ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to get married, and you don't necessarily need to be the provider. You just need to be a good wife and a mother, which is not necessarily an easy thing to do. I'm just saying that the expectations are different for men and women, especially when it comes to the whole providing thing. For example, homeless men. Men make up a vast majority of the homeless. I think 61% of the homeless in this country. Nobody's boo-hooing for the homeless man. Well, why is that? It's because the homeless man is expected to go out and get a job. However, women, on the other hand, they're expected to be taken care of, right? They're expected to be taken care of. It's not their fault, especially if they got kids. They're going to get government help. I mean, the floor for men is a lot lower than it is for women, okay? The floor for a man is a lot lower. And that's probably the reason why men have a higher suicide rate than women as well, too, which is something that feminists never bring up because they want equality, right? They want everything to be equal, but they never talk about that, trying to fix that disparity. But anyways, yeah, this is why men tend to delete themselves at, you know, a higher rate, because in my opinion, the floor is much lower. Your life can be much worse as a man because society doesn't really care about the man who isn't, you know, pulling themselves up or is not, you know, doing well in life, because it's expected that men are just supposed to just, you know, be able to tough it out. You got to do what you got to do. Women, on the other hand, they have to be coddled and taken care of because they're women, right? So, you know, I do think it is easier to be a woman, even though I'm not a woman, so it's hard for me to say, but I'm just saying, as a man, I think it's easier to be a woman.
That men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
Just from a viewpoint over here, though, it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that beauty standards have accepted. And so
they call me ugly on the internet all the time. They be roasting me daily, I swear to God.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there are a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
Now, real quick, on the pretty privilege thing, I don't think that Pearl is suffering from pretty privilege. Not that I don't think that Pearl is attractive. I don't have any comments on that. But I think Pearl benefits more from the fact that she actually knows her stuff, that she's a hustler, she's a entrepreneur, she's a great marketer, and again, she's actually really good at what she does. She actually has real skills, and she's a perfect example of what women can achieve if they put their mind to it and they work hard, regardless of what they look like, right? Regardless of what they look like, she is an example of, you know, how women can find success by simply building skills, you know, understanding your audience and stuff like that. I mean, again, Pearl is a good example of, you know, women breaking the glass barrier or whatever you want to call it, okay? But again, because she's, you know, anti-feminist or whatever, you know, her opinions doesn't count. You know, she's never used as an example of what women can achieve, you know, when they work hard. So,
I mean, let's also dig into why these quotas exist and why these, what you're calling
because
privileges
we want special
exist.
treatment.
No, it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women, and because of sexism.
yeah, you know, the irony of this statement right here is that this is a man. This is a male, right? And they want to be treated as a woman. They want to be treated as a female. And you're sitting here telling people that, well, women are in jobs or are represented less in jobs because of sexism, while at the same time this person is trying to replace women, right? She's trying to replace women with men. Again, I don't know if this person is the most qualified to speak on this issue. I don't know why in the world they're having a feminism debate with a biological male in the room. I don't understand that. I don't get that.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can pick
Who
what
has
we
no
want to
barriers?
pick.
It doesn't have barriers.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
As a woman. See, that ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I said before, I'm speaking about women. I'm not.
You're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as
an
able-bodied
white woman.
I
that is
understand.
white.
Represents white.
Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're
I
just
would
going to
agree.
ignore
White
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over bodies.
The pay gap has been proven and debunked
The pay gap doesn't
endlessly,
exist.
my friend.
It doesn't.
That's
It's
so funny.
the industries that women pick.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try.
And this is grounded in biology, right? What she's talking about is biology. This is why when they say, gender is a social construct, it's so ridiculous, because even if you accept that, okay, some of the aspects of how men and women are oriented in society comes from socialization. Like, let's say, for example, like wearing a dress, okay? That's fine, but you can't say that a woman in her role as a mother is not grounded in biology, right? That totally is grounded in biology, because a man can't give birth. A man can't breastfeed. A man doesn't have the same hormone profile as women that make them better caretakers. Again, a lot of how we structure society is grounded in biology. You can't forget that.
Try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism. And then also, Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the US, have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if you don't ask?
Why are they not?
What happens when women ask for raises? Sorry, I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful. I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to speak on the whole race pay gap thing. For the short time that I was in the corporate world, I've never filled out a job application and they said that, hey, this is gonna be my salary because you're black, right? Or because you're a man, or because you're a woman. For the most part, especially if you're getting an entry-level job, what they pay is what they pay. And it doesn't matter if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're a woman, doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. What they pay you is what they're going to pay you. Now, when you're talking about other types of jobs that you have more leverage, right, in some fields where you have a specialized skill, like, for example, computer science or engineering or something like that, which are fields that men dominate, by the way, right? Probably because of some biological reasons, to be honest with you. But regardless, the more specialized you have, the more leverage you have on your employer, then yeah, you can negotiate, right? You can ask for a higher salary or whatever. And yeah, I mean, women probably in those positions don't tend to want to negotiate. But if you don't have a specialized skill where you actually have the ability to negotiate, then yeah, your ability to negotiate is going to be limited. Like, I had no ability to negotiate my entry level job, right? I had no ability to negotiate that whatsoever. But if you continue to move up, the more skills you gain, the more valuable you become, you will have the ability to negotiate further. And that is just something that women should take advantage of, right? Nothing stopping them from taking advantage of that if they have a specialized skill set.
But it is a very privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right? And having choice, and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, having bread, having food. And those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what? In the US, like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said that there's barriers. I want to know what barriers in the US today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman. I said as a woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I just feel like your question is kind of hostile when you're there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have a privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing, and I feel like it's
I think as an American, you're very privileged.
I'm not ignoring that.
We're a basic level of what, the feminist movement is when it comes to just being born a woman, right? Physically, pound for pound, we are born as women and we have less lean muscle mass than men.
Oh, nice.
So there are issues of violence and assault and stuff like that. And so therefore, there are policies, there are things to help women physically, like, for example, I believe being able to carry a firearm and being able to use that safely to defend yourself against men who are born naturally with more muscle mass than a woman.
Oh, that transgender woman. That trans male, he didn't like to hear that. Right? He didn't like to hear that. he was like, oh no, stop talking. But yeah, when it comes to the whole barriers thing, it's everybody in life has barriers, right? I think that Pearl, she probably not being super genuine or honest when she says that, oh, there's no barriers. No, everybody has barriers. But the problem is that we're focusing too much on the barriers instead of breaking the barriers, right? There's no reason why you can't break the barriers. There's nothing stopping you from breaking the barriers. Yes, everybody has barriers. Everybody has things they have to overcome in life, and we should not be sitting here focusing on those things and boohoo whining and crying about it, because again, everybody has those things, and some people are gonna have more barriers than others. Some people have less barriers than others. It doesn't matter. What matters is that there's nothing stopping you from breaking those barriers, and that is what we need to be pushing. Even as a woman, there's nothing stopping you from breaking the glass ceiling or whatever, breaking those barriers. If you put in the work and if you earn it, you can do, you can achieve a lot of things. I'm not gonna say you can do everything a man can do, obviously, especially from a physical perspective, but you can achieve greatness in your own right? You can achieve what you want to achieve. So, again, it's just weird to me to, hear these conversations of these women that, want to find ways to play victim and to oppress themselves, when if you just get out of this mindset of oppression, you would find that, life will probably be a lot more easier. You would probably be a lot more successful in life, and you probably find that you're breaking more of those barriers, and those barriers aren't really as big of a deal as you're making out to be if you simply just change your mindset. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.